Hello everyone, and thank you once again for joining me for another episode of Justruth and Company, which is a Jamaican podcast that shares the raw accounts of failure, success, love, financial, societal, and all the other issues in between, giving you helpful tips and advice on how to live your best life possible. I'm really excited about today's episode because today we're going to be talking about savings and investments. Yes, even in a time as this, we ought to be trying to save because look, we have to plan for the future. We plan on surviving. We plan on thriving. Joining me to have this discussion is Ms. Nicholone Taylor, financial advisor with Sagicor Life Jamaica Ltd. She'll be talking to us about savings and investments, and to add a little tips to that, we'll also be talking about the importance of having a will. So you have all that money, you have all that asset. What happens to it in a worst case scenario when you die, or should you die? We'll find out much more about that coming up. There are so many changes that are happening that we have no control over, but we do have control over our money, or we should.
Yes, we
And
should.
and this is where you come in, because some of us don't really understand the concept of saving, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to explain that to us so we can grasp it fully.
Not a problem, Ruth. Not a problem. Not a problem. So let's dive in.
Let us go.
Yes.
So you can explain to us what saving is and how to effectively do so.
Okay. Well, savings basically is from what you're earning. The concept is putting something aside. Okay. And for whatever we are earning, we need to be preparing ourselves for later on down the line, because everything is not just about today. For example, financial planning is very important, and savings is a vital part of that, because we all have short, medium, and long-term goals where our life is concerned. And everything now revolves around, anything we want to do now revolves around paying money of some form to get it done. So it's something that we have to have. Just for example, just giving a simple example, if you have a child, son, daughter, one of the most important things is going to be that child's education, correct? And there is a cost where tuition of education is concerned. And you know that by a certain age, you would need that for your child, right? So if you know tuition is a certain amount, that's not money that we just have lying around. What we want to do is put plans in place from now to start putting something down to have those funds available for that particular goal you have later on down the line. So one of the things you had also asked is, what is saving? So putting something aside for later on a rainy day. And the next question you had also asked is, how much do we need to be saving?
Yeah.
We need to be, and it's not just saving we need to do, Ruth. That's another
Savings and
important point.
investment.
And
I'm
investment.
hoping you will
Yes.
get into that, but just to start off with the savings, because I know you're going to continue, but you have some persons who may say, well, I'm not carrying in big bucks. How do I
Mm-hmm.
save? I just get paid fortnightly. It's not a lot of money. How do I
Mm-hmm.
save? So how do I
How do you
save?
how do you save? The formula is you should be saving, investing 20% of what you're earning. That is the formula that you use. So if you are earning 100,000, 20% of that is $20,000. So you should be doing saving and investment of approximately 20,000. If you're earning 80, it's the same principle. 20% of that is $16,000. So you should be doing a combination of saving and investment of that amount. Now, the next questions persons will ask is, well, I can't afford to do that amount right now. What I say to persons is, calculate what that amount is, and you start with, okay, so let's say that amount is 20,000. How close to that can you get? And you make a start. the key is no procrastination. A lot of times we have a figure we want to do, we can't do it. No, we are waiting to see we get to a moment when we can start. No, if you can't manage 20, okay, I can start with 10, and you make a start with the 10. One of the big importance of savings, Ruth, is saving and investing, we said, but one of the big priorities where saving is concerned is each individual should have a goal of building up a emergency fund of approximately 6 months to a year of what you earn. Anything can happen, because persons are asking what happens when you have a situation like this. If you are putting you have your financial plan in place and you are building your savings to have 6 months to a year worth of your salary, God, this downturn that took place, for example, where our tourism sector is concerned, for example, you would have had a buffer because you would have built up a safety net. Now, if you were not putting anything aside, what position would you be in when you have a situation like this? So it is situations like this where financial planning ahead of time is so important, and you see the importance of it where when you have a tragic situation like what is taking place right now, which is beyond anybody's control. Ruth, nobody planned to be in a pandemic in March. Nobody had any expectation or plans where that was concerned, right? But if we didn't put something aside, what would we have in place if we were look on what has happened in Portmore right now. There's a lockdown for 7 days. If you don't have something put down and in place, how would you manage in a situation like that? That is the importance of your financial planning and just saving and putting something down, because there is always going to be a rainy day at some point, Ruth. Always unforeseen circumstances that comes up, because when this passes, and this too will pass, there's going to be something in the future again that will take place. So we have to be prepared where it is concerned. So your savings at a moment like this would have come in so handy, especially if you're in a situation where you're not going to be able to work for a couple months. That is where those savings come into play and are so important.
Okay. And I want us to merge into investments now.
Yes.
So there's
yes.
savings. There was a time when I was of the school of thought that maybe savings is overrated. Maybe I should just be investing because I can get more returns on my money. Explain that concept, please.
All right. So saving and investment. Investment is a little different from savings. Saving is you're building up a compulsory fund that you can draw money from or access it at any point in time. It's liquid, like a bank account. That's what you have your savings for. Investments is a little different. Investment now is money that we're going to be putting on different kinds of instruments to earn rates of return for you. So the fact that you have to put something down for a period of time to earn a rate of return, meaning there's a period of time that you're not going to be able to access those funds, because those funds are going to be on instruments to be earning returns for you. Because the purpose of an investment is to build money on top of your money for you. That's what an investment basically is in common terms. So just by the virtue of that, you're not going to be able to put it down and just access it, because it has to be at work on something. Let me give you an example. One of the investment instruments we have are bonds. Most bonds are like at least 5 to 8 year periods before those returns start coming in. So you wouldn't have returns coming in on an instrument like that in year one. You understand? So you would have to be willing to have some money that is, you kind of just set it and forget it to allow that money to work for you. So that is the importance. That is why as an advisor, all my clients, and you can vouch for that, Ruth, when I speak to them about investment, I say, listen, we also need to have a compulsory fund, because events and things happen unexpectedly all the time. And you must be able to can lay your hands on some form of cash to deal with a situation if some form of emergency occurs. That is where your savings come into play. Your investment now is more for your future. You're building wealth for later on down the line. So you're sacrificing not using this money now because you're putting it on instruments that are going to be earning a return for you. So it's going to be money on top of your money. And the power of compound interest is what makes investment such a powerful instrument. So you start off with, say, you put down $100. And let us say it has earned a 10% rate of return. At the end of that year, you'd have that 100 plus $10, 110. Then that 110 now is going to be invested again. So instead of just earning $10 now, that money is going to be earning 11. So the more you go and the more you add is the bigger the amounts are. That's the power where compound interest is concerned and the power of investment, right? You're not going to get that from a regular savings because the savings is to be there so you can access it at any time. So it can't be put on anything to work for you. Hence why you need to have both in your portfolio.
Okay, makes perfect sense. Sounds wonderful.
Make sense?
But it makes sense, man. It makes a lot of sense. But
Okay.
for person, we're currently in the pandemic. Is this
Yes.
a time, because we're in need of money, is this the right time to start saving and investing when we're
Yes.
kind of at a pinch? Is it?
Yes. Yes. You still
Sounds
need to be
great.
preparing, Ruth. It sounds crazy, Ruth, but you still need to be preparing and putting aside. Very, very, very important. As a matter of fact, it underlies the purpose and the reason why you need to have these things in place where your portfolio is concerned. Because we're in a situation right now. This too is going to pass, Ruth.
Mhm.
Okay, and something else is going to occur. We cannot allow situations and unforeseen circumstances to cripple us from doing the very things we need to do to make ourselves better off. So just because, for example, just ask yourself the question, if you're not investing and putting something down, and you're not going to be working forever, how do you plan to take care of yourselves when you're older and not able to work? If you don't put something down now in your better days when you're able to work and you're able to generate income, what's going to happen to you when you're no longer able to generate?
Serious questions. Serious
Serious,
questions.
serious question. So you are making the sacrifices now to put yourself in the position you want to be for later on down the line. Everybody wants to be financially secure and financially independent. But Ruth, we cannot achieve financial independence if we're not putting steps in place to do so. We can't earn and spend everything and expect when we're no longer able to earn, there's going to be something there to take care of us. We have to put the necessary steps in place to ensure that that is the case. And the formula for that, 20% of your earnings saved and invested. Ruth, if everybody from they started working was doing that, we'd all be
Wow.
okay financially.
Oh, I would be so okay. I would be so okay. But it's better to be late than never. So
Yes,
we
yes,
work with
yes,
that, and that
yes.
is formula we want persons. That is what we want persons to take away from this. That even though we're going through a rough period now, and you might not have the full 20%, if you can find 5%, put it
Amen.
down, because
Yes,
interestingly, you might even need it next week, as close
exactly.
as next week.
As close as next week you might need it, right? As close as next week. So as you rightly said, I love what you just said a while ago. If you can't do the 20, but you can even just do 5, do the 5. You are making a big step towards your own financial independence, and you'll be surprised to see how that 5 will looks over a period of time. And then the younger you start, Ruth, the beauty of compound interest is the younger you start, you can start off with much smaller sums, and you just do it consistently over your lifetime, and you'd be surprised to know what you can build and develop for yourself where that is concerned, the power where compound interest is concerned. So the key being to tell persons, do not despair. No despairing right now. Get in action where your portfolio is concerned. And as you rightly said, Ruth, if you need to start small, work with what you can, and as time goes, you upgrade along the way. I tell persons where my clients are concerned, I like to have an annual review with each of my clients. Everybody's situation changes over time. And as your situation improves and change, you can step up what you're doing where it is concerned. If you can't manage to do any step up, you work with where you are for the time being until you're in a position to do so.
I agree with you. And continuing on that trend, let's take for granted that we have been saving and we've been investing for years. And in the back of our minds, there's something saying that apart from a life insurance, do I
Mhm.
need a will? So I want to touch a little bit on the importance of having a will. And for persons who don't know, if you could just explain what a will actually is.
All right, will is vitally important. What a will basically is, it's a document, a legal document stating how you want your assets and possessions disposed of when you pass on. That's what a will is. And will forms are something that anybody can purchase in any bookstore. Sanctions, all of them have will forms. So it's not something you have to go to. Yes, it's not something you have to go to a lawyer, anything like that. Me personally, I always keep will forms because I find a lot of persons don't have wills. And for all of my clients that don't have wills, I say, listen, here's a will form. Write your will. If you do not have a will, where a lot of people are indoors right now, write your will. It's, as I said, it's a specific form, right? As I said, it can be picked up. I don't know if it can be seen here. I'm showing you. You can see it here, right? It's a specific form. As I said, it can be picked up in any bookstore. Sanctions has them because that's where I get mine from, right, that I dispose of to my clients. And it's a simple form that anybody can just go through. As I say to persons, a will does not have to be difficult and 5, 10 pages.
I can read
If you
as long.
want to leave, no, you can. It's always good if you have a lawyer for them to oversee it for you, just to look and make sure that nothing is wrong with that. But it's not something you have to specifically go into a lawyer to get done. You can pick up your will form. You can even put all of my possessions I leave to such and such and such, if that is the case. I always like to tell persons, if you can list your items in as much detail as you can, and just state who you want it left to. State who you want it left to. It is vitally important. If you don't leave a will, Ruth, and this is very important.
If I don't have one, what happens to my assets?
Let me explain to you what happens if you don't have a will. If you don't have a will, it is going to be left up to the laws of the country. It goes into probate to deal with the wrapping up of your affairs. And let me explain something so all your listeners are aware, for persons who are not aware. According to the law of the land, the only two sets of persons that are recognized for receiving any of your possessions if you don't have a will is your spouse, if your person is married, and your children.
Wow.
That's it. Your
Your mom
spouse,
gets left out.
your parents are not recognized. Your cousins are not recognized. Nieces are not recognized. Grandchildren are not recognized. Friends, because you have some persons that a personal friend has been there more for them than any family member who they would like to leave something to, they are not recognized. So all of those persons in those categories I have outlined, if persons want their possessions left to them, they have to put a will in place. If a will is not put in place, those persons cannot receive any of your possessions when you die. It is as simple as that. Can't receive it. Yeah. And
So
just to give a little bit where the law is concerned, just to give persons a little understanding, I am not a lawyer, but because of what I do, this is information that I am aware of. If you are married, Ruth, and you have one child, how the law looks at it is 2/3 of whatever you have goes to your spouse and 1/3 to your child. So let us say you had a situation where that person and their spouse they're not divorced, but they're not into anything with one another, if you understand what I mean. Right, good. And that person really would not want that person to inherit the bulk of what they have and want to leave the bulk of everything, let us say, to their children, or let us say to a grandchild. If they did not put a will in place, 2/3 of their possessions are going to go to their wife or their husband, whoever the spouse is respectively, and 1/3 would go to the child. If you have more than one child, it's 50-50. 50% of everything goes to your spouse, and the other 50 is divided among your children. Nobody else is recognized. So you must write a will. Very important.
I love it. This is
Yeah.
beautiful. So you have to save, you have to invest, and you're doing that. You ought to ensure that you have a will. So all these
Yes.
assets and things that you're putting together can be distributed the way you want them to.
Exactly. Exactly. You don't want it left up to government. First thing, if it's left to government, it takes forever to process. And you have a number of persons, Ruth, that are not married and don't have any children.
Like myself. So
Like
what happened?
myself. I'm not married. I don't have any children. Like yourself, right? You are a hard worker. I am a hard worker. We have acquired stuff over the time period of our lives. And I'm sure there are persons that you would like it to be left to. If you don't do a will, Ruth, those persons will get nothing. Nothing. So we work so long and hard for assets. Look at something like a home, for example, Ruth. Most people, that is the one asset that they will own in their lifetime. And most people, you take 30, 40 years paying for that. So you're going to spend so much of your hard-earned money paying for an asset, and you don't take the time to ensure it is disposed of in the way you wish for it to be disposed of. Kind of a waste. Kind of a waste. And it's simply a matter of getting one of these, writing in there who you want the property left to. One little note I wanted to make to you as well, Ruth, in regards to where property is concerned, since we're dealing with leaving property in a will, via will. It is just to mention briefly that if you are leaving property to anyone, when you pass on, that person is going to have to pay estate tax to the government for it to be transferred into their name. It cannot be transferred without that estate tax being paid. So the first part is putting the will in place, stating who you want the house or the asset left to. But you also need to make provision to have the funds available to deal with the transfer of the property. Because when you pass on, that person who you leave the property to is going to need approximately 15 to 20% of the value of that property when you pass on to deal with transfer tax, paying of the lawyer fees, etc. And if that money is not paid, the property is not transferred.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Interesting.
Not
I think
transferred.
everyone's listening clearly to that. I want to back up just a little bit before we get ready to wrap. So I've gotten my will form. I've written in there who I want to get what. What next? What do I do with it? Do I keep it? Do I give it to a lawyer? Do I hide it under the mattress like some money, like our grandparents do? What do
No.
I?
First of all, your will has to be witnessed,
Mm-hmm.
right? Right. I always recommend you keep a copy of your will. I always recommend, if a person has a lawyer, have your lawyer have a copy of that will as well. Also, where your will is concerned, you know you need to leave somebody as an executor. Where your will is concerned, that is somebody you trust to deal with the wrapping up of your affairs. That's also a good person for them to have a copy to know exactly what is what. You don't want to be the only person that knows about the will. Somebody else needs to know. You can pass unforeseen, and who would know you had written a will or where that will is if it is just written and you keep that confidential and you hide it in your attic somewhere. So persons need to be aware of it. I always recommend, it's always good if you have a lawyer, for them to have a look at it and for them to have a copy of it, and somebody who is your executor as well to have a copy and know about the will, etc., where it is concerned. So whatever your circumstances are upon passing on, there is somebody that can be accessed where your will, etc., is concerned, for your thing to be disposed of the way that you wish for it to be disposed of. I always recommend, if you can, to have an attorney have a look, and if possible for them to have a copy of that as well, just to safeguard what you need to have safeguarded whenever that, because we don't know when we're going to die or the circumstances under which we're going to pass on. Yeah.
That is, you have shared a wealth of information, a whole lot, and I'm grateful. Is there any final thing that you'd like to add before we say goodbye?
One thing I'd like to say before we say goodbye, first of all, I just want everybody to keep themselves safe and sound. Just follow the procedures as laid out by the government for us to keep safe and sound in this trying time. And if you don't have a financial plan in place, put something in place now. Put something in place now. Never procrastinate. If something is not in order, put it in order. If you don't have your will, write your will. Put your house in order.
Beautifully put. Thank you so very much. And you too, thank you for your assistance. Thanks for this interview, the wealth of information that you've shared, as I mentioned earlier. And you need to ensure that you too are keeping safe, practicing social
Thank you for that.
and all of that. We
Yes.
want to ensure that we all come out alive on the other side of this pandemic.
Yes, alive and well. And you as well, Ruth. And I want to just thank you as a woman in business, just with such a powerful, positive impact that you're giving. And even where this podcast is concerned that you're doing, just kudos on all the great work you're doing, and to just keep it going. You're a trailblazer. And kudos to you where that is concerned. You're more than welcome, my dear. And every success to you where your business is concerned, you deserve it.
Thank you. All right, then. Have a great day.
You too, and stay safe.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All I can say is, wow. I don't know about you, but that was a wealth of information just there. Save, invest, and ensure that once you have all that money put together, you have a will in place so that it's distributed the way you want to after you have left this life. I do hope you enjoyed today's episode. I sure did. And if you did, let me know in the comments bar below. Let me know where in the process you are of securing your financial future. That's it for today's episode. Until the next one, stay safe, stay motivated, practice social distancing and proper hygiene, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.